Welcome. So glad you tuned in to Leap of Faith as we explore Altos. Taken from the Latin altus, meaning high, we feature top priority news stories. We join our editorial and digital teams at Camzel with trending stories from our local weekly Catholic newspaper, as well as Caribbean, Vatican, and global stories. Take the leap with us, hot off the press.
Good evening, and welcome to our Independence edition of Altos, a weekly Catholic news program done in collaboration with Trinity TV. In this week's edition, the beautiful Church of Our Lady of Montserrat, located in scenic central Trinidad, has been rededicated. We have a report from Kayla and Jordan. The people of Lopino and environs celebrate the rich history of the 75-year-old La Veronica RC Church. And the Paramin community in Maraval addresses the crime scourge. And later on, we sit down with veteran political commentator Ferdy Ferreira as Trinidad and Tobago prepares to celebrate the 61st anniversary of our independence. In our lead story this evening, the Archdiocese's oldest wooden church has been restored. Reporter Kaylan Jordan from the Catholic News attended the rededication Mass of Our Lady of Montserrat Church in Tortuga on last Tuesday, August 22nd. And
following extensive restoration work, which began October 2022, faithful from the Archdiocese of Port of Spain gather here today to witness the rededication of Our Lady of Montserrat, Tortuga. As the church embarks on this new chapter, the local Roman Catholic community reflects on the significance of the event and the blessing that this 145-year-old building brings to all those who worship here.
This is a church I visited only once, and I found it something somewhat new, because it's the only church I remember being in this condition, which when all other churches were rebuilding in concrete, and this was the only one that was still wooden. And as a person over age, I found it so very beautiful, old-fashioned, and in line with all those churches in the bigger countries that you only see in books and in pictures.
Marcia Nicholas from Our Lady of Mount Carmel, Caripichaima, shared her cherished memories of the church. Those memories, she told Altos, hold even more significance now with the rededication of Our Lady.
You know, many harvests, I have been here and I've enjoyed the parang, you know, and all the misfortune the last priest had. All those things are memories for me. And it's been wonderful to be here this evening.
In his homily, Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon illustrated the parallel between the restoration of the church and the restoration of the internal temple, the heart and the spirit.
Because the word had been distant from their ears for 70 years. They wept because while they're restoring the building, the physical building, and all that required, they had not been restoring their soul and their heart and their spirit. They wept because as they had been working on the external temple, now reading from God's word, God worked on the internal temple and renewed them from within. And I pray for the day when the word is being read, people will weep.
The total restoration costs, exclusive of VAT and consultancy fees, amounted to 4.8 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars. The La Veronica RC Church in Lopino celebrated its 75th anniversary on Sunday, August 20th with a special Mass. Archbishop Emeritus Robert Rivas, who grew up in Lopino, and the parish priest Father Gregory McLawrence were the celebrants. At the celebration, All the hymns were sung in Spanish, and after the meditation, a few parishioners depicted the history of the La Veronica RC Church. In the early 1940s, Cora villagers were displaced from their homes for the construction of a dam. For the villagers, life was centered around this church, and items were salvaged after its demolition and later used to help construct the new La Veronica Church in Lopino in 1948. Tokens of appreciation were distributed to persons who served the church for a number of years. After Mass, there was a procession with the statue of La Veronica and a sharing with, as expected, Parang Entertainment. There are more photos of this celebration in this Sunday's issue of Catholic News, and look out for a full report in our September 3rd issue. In some news from the Vatican, Pope Francis has announced that he's writing a second part of his environmental encyclical Laudato Si to cover current issues. Pope Francis made the statement about an update to Laudato Si's on the morning of August 21st at the end of a speech to lawyers from the Council of European Member States that signed the Vienna Declaration on the support of the rule of law in 2022. Pope Francis told the lawyers he's sensitive to their care for the common home and commitment to the development of regulatory frameworks for environmental protection. Laudato Si is the second of 3 encyclicals published in Pope Francis's pontificate thus far. It was released in June 2015. The title, which means Praise Be to You, was taken from St. Francis of Assisi's medieval Italian prayer canticle of the sun. Laudato Si addresses issues such as climate change, care for the environment, and the defense of human life and dignity. In news from our parishes, last week, the community of St. Peter's Orange Valley, which is part of the St. Paul's Parish in Couva, held a poor man's dinner to raise funds for the ongoing restoration of the church building. Let's take a look at those celebrations. And as Altos continues to grow, please know that you can send us your pictures and stories of activities and events in your parish. Simply email to altos@catholictt.org, all lowercase. In other parish news, Father Dwight Merrick held a 4-day retreat recently for men in the Southern Vicariate themed The Masculine Journey. The retreat sought to help men understand the way Bible views masculinity. Coming out of the retreat, men volunteered as mentors in 2 projects. The first project targeted post-SEA boys in 3 groups, from South Oropouche RC, Vance River RC, and the La Brea RC. The second project was a 3-day camp over the July-August vacation for boys who were at risk. The camp schedule included a praise and worship session, viewing and discussing a motivational movie, as well as outdoor sports. Plans are being made to further develop this mentorship project for the coming academic year, and we wish Father Dwight and all the dads involved all the best in this project. In another parish, residents of Paramin came out in their numbers for a prayer and worship session. They gathered together in a group aimed at stemming the violence affecting the nation and which has now come home to their community. The event was led by Father Peter St. Hilaire, a native of Paramin himself. The group assembled in front of Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, and with lit candles and praying the rosary, they proceeded to the John Mader grounds, then to the Mont Cyril ground road, and finally to Fatima Junction. In his address, Father Peter reminded the participants that the battle against crime was not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and the rulers of darkness of this world.
We need to clothe ourselves in the armor of God because this is spiritual warfare we're in right now. This is not a one and done. We want to dispel the darkness here in our community in Paramin. Amen? And by extension, Trinidad and Tobago. Because it's coming from outside and coming up the road, you know.
The Paramin Catholic Men's Group helped coordinate this event. And in some not so good news now coming out of Jamaica, a Kenyan Roman Catholic priest in Jamaica was granted bail in the sum of 800,000 Jamaican dollars in the St. Catherine Parish Court in Spanish Town recently. Father Lawrence Muvengi is accused of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl on the premises of St. Francis Xavier Roman Catholic Church in Portmore. He is charged with having sexual intercourse with a person under 16 years, sexual touching of a child, grievous sexual assault, and abduction of a child under 16 years. According to the Jamaican Observer newspaper, he was ordered to surrender all his travel documents. The Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Kingston has removed Father Muvengi from all active pastoral ministry pending the outcome of the case. He is due to return to court in September. And the local Catholic community is mourning the loss of Michael Batiste, who died on Sunday, August 20th. His parish community of St. Francis of Assisi Sangre Grande described Michael as a man of many roles, each embraced with passion and grace. In a tribute via the parish's Facebook page, it said he was a former parish secretary, usher, lector, and extraordinary minister of Holy Communion. He was also a teacher of exceptional caliber and focused his efforts on uplifting underprivileged children in remote communities like Kumaka, Brasso Seco, Aripo, and Caripichaima. On a global stage, Michael represented Trinidad and Tobago at 3 World Youth Days. But it was the one in World Youth Day Poland 2016 that shone brightest, where he guided a group of youths and exemplified determination, tirelessly raising funds to make their journey possible. Funeral arrangements for Michael will be shared via the St. Francis's online platforms. Eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord. Let perpetual light shine upon him. May Michael rest in peace. It's time now for a short break, and when we come back, we speak with veteran political commentator and author Ferdy Ferreira as we reflect on 61 years of independence for Trinidad and Tobago. That and more when we return. As we take this short break, check out our trivia question. Welcome back from our break. As we look forward to celebrating the 61st independence anniversary of Trinidad and Tobago in a few days, Altos welcomes to the set today a walking encyclopedia, an author and veteran political commentator, Dr. Ferdinand "Ferdy" Ferreira. Ferdy, welcome to the set, and it's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you.
Ferdy, thanks for inviting me.
Of course. You were there at the beginning. You were there 61 years ago. 61 years later, how you feel?
In terms of the country, I feel excellent. In terms of what we have achieved, and the fact of the matter that we have not stumbled like so many other countries who obtained their independence, beginning with India in 1947.
Right.
On Monday, the 31st of August, 2 years ago, I wrote the following. As a relatively young nation, no occasion, no celebration provides us with a better opportunity to reflect, assess, evaluate, and analyze the state of our nation as our independence celebration.
And it does. It gives us the opportunity to look back, at where we've come. Take us back to that night of, when you saw the Union Jack being lowered for the last time, and the red, white, and black being hoisted upon that flagpole for the very first time. Take us back to that night.
It was a tremendous, emotional, and unforgettable experience. As a former Lance Corporal in the Butler Army of Liberation in 1946, 14 years of age, I have been in the vanguard of every struggle for freedom and liberty in this country. As a matter of fact, how well do I recall sometime in 1953 marching around the savannah with the late chief servant singing, "Rance must be kicked in his rancid ass. The terrible Irish must go. Rance, Governor Rance, Colonial Secretary Renison, and Financial Secretary A.R.W. Robertson.
They must go.
Three Irish must go.
The three Irish must go. And on that night, when you saw the flag, or the national flag going up for the first time, what was going through your mind?
In that we have arrived. And it reminded me of the former Gold Coast Ghana when Nkrumah was asked, when the British leave, what will you do? How would you make out with all the British? He said, give us a chance to guide or misguide ourselves.
Excellent.
Standing there, said, this is the opportunity for us to guide. The great Mahatma Gandhi put it another way when asked by Lord Mountbatten, the last Viceroy of India, when the British gone, what will you all do with all these problems you have in India? And the great Mahatma said, after all, Lord, it will be our problems. We will be responsible for solving them. And this is how I felt. Whatever the problems, and in fact, the problem was spelled out clearly at the United Nations by our first ambassador, Sir Ellis Clark, when he said, on September 18, 1962, our permanent representative to the United Nations, Sir Ellis Clark, stated the following at our admittance to the United Nations. Our national institutions will develop and prove to be able to withstand the stress of independence. So
for the
early o'clock we recognize
what the problems were.
Yeah.
Do you think we've achieved as much as we could have?
No, of course, like everything else, we could have done better. But we have done remarkable. When we take into consideration the countries that got, nearly all the countries that got independence after India in 1947, two prime ministers were assassinated in India. Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi. Bhutto was assassinated in Pakistan. So Abu Bakr Tafiya Baliwa was assassinated in Nigeria. We know of Bokassa. We know of Idi Amin. We know of the problems in most of the countries that's achieved, whether the former colonizers were British, French, German. And when we look back, it is against this background we must evaluate and assess. In spite of the problems we encounter, political, economic, or otherwise, we have done remarkably well. We were fortunate to have obtained independence with a founding father, Dr. Eric Williams, who we owe an eternal gratitude.
Because I was going to ask you that. What made the difference between Trinidad and Tobago gaining independence and those other countries you've identified that went through so much?
Not to remember Grenada, we had assassination in Grenada. We had Suriname. We had a riots in Guyana. Fortunately, we have escaped because of the astute and brilliant leadership of our founding father, and backed up by a cadre of colonial trained public servants, Sir Werner Booth, Sir Solomon Hochoy, Edward Eugenio Moore, Dodd Alling,
Frank Bassotti,
a cadre of public who ensured that most significant period in that historical journey from colonialism, that's the most trying period. You either get the sums right, and the consequences of getting wrong are
almost
deadly.
Catastrophic.
We have seen it in so many right here in the Caribbean. Yes, Bishop in Grenada.
Maurice Bishop,
Maurice Bishop in the Bouteflika regime in Suriname. race riots in Guyana. So we have been very fortunate, and it is independence gives us an opportunity, particularly our young people, and institutions like the one you represent, to sit down. The problem in the country, Neil, is that we don't read. We just sit down and take everything for granted and believe that somebody owes something. The people who contributed towards that struggle, in spite that we didn't go through the same struggle as many other countries, and some take it for granted, that, boy, we had a peaceful transition. It was not as easy as that.
There's a view, Ferdy, that the current politicians, the current crop, the current leaders have somehow lost the plot. What is the difference between what we had then and 61 years later, what we have now?
Well, certainly, I mean, you don't recall the statement made by Sir Isaac Hayatali years ago when he spoke about the watering down of the brandy. Of course, it was a different era, it was a different, so I don't expect another Eric Williams or Rudranath Kapil or people, I mean, the grandeur and the presentations. I attended Parliament, I've been attending Parliament in 1950 until about 10 or 15 years ago. I stopped attending because of the quality. Then we saw a level of patriotism that exemplified concern for your fellow men and the building. In other words, to put it in the proper perspective, as they say, politicians look for the next general election. Statement looked at the next generation.
At the next generation. Ferdy, you are the author of 2 books. Your autobiography entitled Political Encounters Between 1946 to 2016 and Portraits of a Patriot, which you released only last year. What makes a person a patriot?
Well, in my considered opinion, that's the reason, one of the reasons why I wrote that book. A patriot is someone committed to the development of a country. I don't think anybody could have put it better than Nelson Mandela. He said, while you might not have achieved your objectives, once you are satisfied that your performance was to enhance your fellow men, you might not have achieved it, but you might not have achieved your objectives. But the mere idea that you tried and committed yourself towards enhancing the development of your fellow men without regretting the sacrifice in pursuance of obtaining those goals, to me, is what a patriot looks forward, looks out for the country. As I said here, shift the narrative from me to we.
At age 91,
the narrative is too much on me.
At age 91, clad as you are in your patriotic red, white, and black, what's next on the cards for Ferdy Ferreira?
Well, I'm hoping, and again, I would seek your assistance, let me put it that way. I can't say approval yet, because to do a presentation of my writings over the last 70 years, I think that I have made my contribution. And while I know and recognize only too well that the time is
fleeting.
Well, my voice will no longer be the sword.
Yes.
My pen will no longer be the sword. And my voice will no longer be the cord for reflecting the state of the nation and making my contribution. I anxiously look forward to passing on the information and knowledge that I've acquired over the years to the younger generation.
Ferdy, let me thank you for joining us, and trust me, you'll have my support in that other place.
Thank you very much for having me on your organization. All the best for
pleasure.
Independence.
Right? Thanks very much.
Altos, from the Latin altus, meaning high. Every Friday night we feature the top news items hot off the press. We are taking a leap of faith on Trinity TV. Jump in with us for this new and exciting experience.
And after that wonderful interview with Ferdy Ferreira, let's now look ahead at some upcoming events.
The lighting of the park for the Santa Rosa Festival is on this Friday, the 25th of August, starting at 6 p.m. with an opening prayer by Father Andrew. Chief Ricardo is going to be there to tell us about the history of the lighting of the park. We have live entertainment with Los Alumnos de San Juan with Alicia Jagasa. We also have John Thomas and Friends and our own People of Praise Steel Orchestra and much, 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 much more.
You can visit the Santa Rosa Malabar Cluster social media platforms for additional information. On Sunday, there is Holy Mass followed by the procession through the streets of Arima with the statue of Santa Rosa. And now we take a look at what's coming in this Sunday's special Independence issue with Catholic News Associate Editor Simon DeLochan.
Special 40-page Independence edition of the Catholic News, read about the life of Marjorie Patmore, beloved composer of our national song, God Bless Our Nation. Meet Henrietta Marcel Griffith, who was a midwife in a predominantly Hindu area in South Trinidad. Take a trip with Road Trip TT, which introduces its customers to our local, ecological, cultural, and geographical diversity and beauty. And examine what we can learn from China with economist Marlene Atz. As we celebrate our independence, here's our cover from 1962. I am Simon DeLochan, Associate Editor, Catholic News.
And remember to get your special Independence issue of the Catholic News, and get one not only for yourself, but pick up an extra copy for your neighbor as well. And remember, you can send your videos, you can send your photos, you can send anything that's happening on your church activities for consideration and presentation on Altos or evening program. You can do so by emailing altos@catholictt.org. That's altos@catholictt.org, all with lowercase. And that brings us to the end of this week's edition of Altos. It's always a pleasure being here with you, and we thank all our viewers, those locally and those who are tuning in from abroad. Remember, God loves you, and so do we. Have a good evening.
A nation of many varied races, may we possess that common love that binds and makes us one. Let it be known around the world that we